2, 1.
All right. So welcome to a special Fragments of Silicon Wednesday review. As mentioned on the main show, we're doing this in lieu of an MSP episode. Plus, we
No,
have
this will be way shorter than an MSB episode.
yes. I kept telling Alex this is going to be a short review. You know, I think he had his doubts until he actually played the game. You know, kind of. It's like, yeah. So the game we are reviewing this time around is called. We think it's called Fjong or Fjong.
Probably Fjong, but it's FJONG. It's a fictional word, and I think it's the name of the little monster thingies.
Yeah, it's unclear. It's one of those things that we wouldn't know until we heard it was pronounced by the developer. But the developer doesn't do broadcast interviews, just text. Anyway, this is the latest game from, speaking of things that are hard to pronounce, Vargritz Studios. I think that's how that's pronounced. It's VARAGTP. Yeah, it's like these are conflagrations of consonants that we don't often see in the English language. At any rate, we have tackled the previous release games of Plantera and Cooking Witch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Fjong is the this is a curious one in the sense that I'm not going to lie, it's a mobile game that's on PC.
Yeah, this game literally auto full screens, and then the entire gameplay is in like tablet / phone aspect ratio with a huge white space on every side.
Yeah. There is no getting around. This
And
is
it has an entirely touch optimized control scheme too.
Yeah, I guess this would be good if you have a touch laptop, but here's the thing: there's no getting around it. It's a lazy port of a thing that doesn't actually exist. Because did some research. Currently, this is only available on Steam. There is no iOS or Android version, as far as I can find. I'm not saying the game isn't going to come to these because it's literally designed around a phone. Like,
Yeah.
it's got the phone aspect ratio, and there's no way to change that.
I think when we reviewed Plantera as well, it was only on Steam and then was later reported to phones.
That sounds
Yeah,
about right.
Plantera works with a mouse.
Well, I mean, this game
Cooking
works
Witch.
with a mouse.
It does, but you can clearly it's a drag it's a drag based control scheme.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You can clearly tell that this was designed for a touch screen because it works well enough in most instances, but there's one level where you're dealing with a rotating platform, and you can really feel the limits of the mouse control because reaction time is delayed. Because it takes a bit more to use a mouse than a touchscreen, especially in cases like this. And quite frankly, there's no excuse for not being able to change the aspect ratio.
Or put it in windowed mode.
Right.
Although I guess that might be hard. It's not like this is a game where I understand that doing things in full screens is more efficient, but this is not a game that's going to be straining your processors.
Yeah. Look, there's no other way to frame it. It's a lazy port. It's lacking options on the most basic of levels. Like, that's the reason why we're playing the trailer instead of the actual game.
Yeah, there are literally no options in the game that I could find aside from the option to continue from where you left off and the option to view the credits.
Oh, and you can also mute the music.
Yes,
Yeah.
which is useful.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
music gets kind of grating.
Yeah, well, the music, like, there's one track, and it goes on Calliope style. Um, it's also odd music because, okay, this game isn't, it's basically an Angry Birds clone,
Yeah.
sort of. Like,
Angry
here's the,
Birds inspired, but yeah.
but it's even more boiled down, if you can believe that. Like, it's the most basic mechanics of a game.
Yeah, you have 1, 2, 3 little blobby monster things that are kind of bird-like. I'm pretty sure they're called Fjongs, though I'm not sure why. I think I read it somewhere. And yeah, you control them by clicking on them, dragging in the direction you want them to leap, and then based on how far and what direction you drag it, they kind of jump in a ballistic trajectory in that general direction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you have to feed them enough candy so that they can get full and float off and leave the stage.
It's like, even in the world of mobile games, this is pretty skimpy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's cute, but yeah.
You know, it's not just in terms of its design, in terms of levels. There are only 20 levels in this game.
Yeah, like Angry Birds, even the free version has like what, 70, 80?
Something like that. Like, even for a mobile game, and yes, I'm going to continue calling it a mobile game because even if it's on PC, it's clearly a mobile game.
Yeah.
Even for a game of that nature, there's a lack of content here. Like, what they got in this game is usually like the first screen of a larger mobile game.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is reflected in its price. It's $2.
Which is 10 whole cents a stage, which, pretty reasonable.
Yeah, I'm like, the price is pretty agreeable. But getting back to the music is odd because it's this easy listening jazz track. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not necessarily bad. It's just, you expect something a bit more upbeat and peppy.
Yeah. Like the Angry Birds theme.
Yeah. Or, the game that this reminds me most of is Bust a Move. Mainly because I'm dealing with a lot of angles and trajectories here.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, the gameplay is super. They don't really ask you to elaborate much on your things. There are, I think, a grand total of maybe 4 or 5 different interactable things in the game, depending on whether or not you count the fact that the Fjongs kind of bounce off walls, which is important.
Mm-hmm.
There are color-coded switches for the different Fjongs. There are spring pads that bounce you and make you ricochet a few times. There is the end stage bucket, which is full of candy. In a few places, there are places where if you shoot up through a hole, a floor comes out so that you can land on top of the hole without falling back down.
Mm-hmm.
And technically, the Fjongs can stand on top of each other, although you really only need to do that in one stage.
Right.
And that is about all of the complexity that this game has to offer.
Yeah, this is very much like an early childhood game. Like someone, like you have a very young child you're trying to teach how to use a mouse. This would be something you'd give to them, not like, some like us who are in our 20s and 30s. This isn't for us.
Yeah.
Not really. Like, so the real challenge of this game is getting all, it's the typical mobile challenge, get the 3 stars.
Yeah, you're scored on the number of moves you make. That is the only thing I could find.
And it's
And
pretty
all of the achievements in the game are for completing the stage with 3 stars each stage.
right. Well, and then there's the hardcore challenge, which is getting all the purple stars, which is an even more limited move set.
Mm-hmm.
What's the purple stars? I didn't run into any of those.
Oh, you have to play the level again to do that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't actually go back and do any more.
Yeah.
What is it, just to get even fewer moves, like to basically do an almost perfect run?
Pretty much. Like the first level, you had to get, in the bucket in one, where, it's a bit more generous. Yeah. It's like probably like the fewest moves imaginable or something like that.
Which really doesn't get very high. I mean, I think the game for most stages is pretty generous with a 3-star limit, unless you are fiddling around a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a reset button if you're failing a jump over and over again and just want to start over.
It's probably the only thing that of genuine challenge in this game. So
yeah, but yeah, a lot of this, I think most of the stages can be done in under 10.
Yeah, I'm like, look, this is a game that you can spend, like, you could beat in about a half an hour. Like, and I'm being generous. Like, there is some replay value to, in 100% in the game, but I'm not sure how engaging that is. Because the levels don't change. There's not much of an additional challenge on top of that. Like, at least in my estimation. And, geez. Yeah, I think that's about it. I'm not.
It's totally harmless.
Yeah.
It literally is like milk money. So, like, if you want to try it out, it's cute. It'll occupy your time briefly.
Yeah. I'm going to go with a below average rating simply for the lazy porting. Like, yeah, there needed to be, some options in this to adjust it to, the actual system it is on. It's harmless, but I am going to denigrate a lazy port for being a lazy port. Full stop. And this is a lazy port. It's not bad, but it's not particularly good or well suited for the platform I played it on.
Yeah.
If I played this on my phone, that would be a different story. But I literally cannot play it on my phone. I don't know when the mobile ports or the mobile versions are coming, but I have to think these are a thing because, yeah, everything about this screams, I was built for an iPhone. Right. Hey, Ben, Twilight, your thoughts?
Yeah, for what it was, it could be. It was all right. It wasn't all that engaging, really, and yeah, there's not really much to say about it.
Yeah. All right. Any last words from you, Penny?
It's a game. You can go play it if you want. Like, there isn't really a whole lot to add.
Yeah.
Right, so, Fjong, it's available on Steam right now for $2. Buy it or don't. Like, I'll be honest, yeah, you're not really losing anything if you get this, but, it's not really it's not really that much of an enriching experience. I'd recommend getting something like Cut the Rope or Angry Birds on mobile. Similarly simple experiences, but just a lot more there.
Yeah, it's pretty harmless aside from the bad formatting for a PC.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that you can't, adjust it. Anyway, so that'll about do it. We'll see you on Sunday with our review of Color Code, another mobile port. But thankfully, this one came out a lot better. More on that in its review.